Okay, so I am going live today to discuss any questions that you might have about the Making a Moulage course. I can't wait to see all of your questions, and I've been also gathering several questions that I've been receiving by email. So I'm so glad you're here with me today, and I can't wait to discuss a lot of these questions that I've been getting about the Moulage course. All right, welcome to this Q&A session, and let's go ahead and jump into the first question. The first question is, can I start at my own time or on my own time schedule? And the answer to that question is yes, of course. Once those modules release weekly, you can access those modules whenever it works for you at your own time schedule. So just to let you know, there's not a restriction that you have to do the course at the same time as us. It's completely fine if you do it on your own. Let me know in the comments, can you hear me okay? Let me know by commenting. Just let me know. I see lots of people on Instagram, and yeah, looks like we're good. Looks like we're working out well here. So, okay, is there a time restriction that you need to finish the course within a certain time period? And this is something that actually a lot of online courses have been doing lately, is that they force you to finish the course within a year time period or something like this. I do not restrict you to make you do the course with any specific time frame, because I think you need to do it at your own life schedule. And I know that life sometimes gets crazy in there. So it's up to you when you want to begin the course, and if maybe you want to come back to it again in the future, or maybe you want to do the course for somebody else, like a daughter or a friend, or maybe you're sewing for a client or something like that. You can come back to that course in the future, and I don't restrict your time and your access to that. So, all right. Thanks so much for letting me know that you can hear me. So glad that you're joining. And yeah, lots of people. Okay. So do I restrict my time in helping people? That's another question a lot of people ask, is do I have to do it within that time frame, and then do I help outside of that, or do I give instruction? And the answer to that question is that I am always here for you as much as I can be to help with those questions. So that means if you jump in throughout the year at any given time frame, I try to help. Of course, once in a while, if I'm on vacation or holiday or something, I can't get back to you right away, but I don't tell you that you have to do it within a certain time frame, and that's the only time I'll help. My biggest thing is that I really want to see you succeed in this. And if you're interested in taking this course, this means that you want something more in your journey. You want to learn more about pattern making, about measuring, and about fitting, all of those things. That's what this course is here for. And I'm here to help facilitate that. So even though you do walk through the entire modules on your own terms, I'm here to help support along the way. And there is a wonderful community that's also here to support. And so many people have gone through this course now, which means that we have a lot of knowledge that everyone is willing to jump in and help when somebody asks for it. So it's a really wonderful community. Another question that people have asked many times is, do I need to be a part of Facebook or Instagram to do the course? And the answer is no. Everything is hosted on my website, and there's also a separate community that's hosted on my website too. So that community is no longer on Facebook. It had been in the past. And the private community is really a wonderful place that, so many people have gone through this process that they can jump in and help. And sometimes you don't want to get everyone else's feedback. And I often request, especially for fittings, that I give the fitting advice, because if you get too many people in there giving you advice, it can be hard to know which way to go. So generally with the fitting, I'm the one who gives that advice, and I do this through fitting videos. So after you assess your fit, you take photos photos of your garments while you're wearing them, the moulage and the sloper, when you get to the sloper later on. And you tell me, this is what I've seen based on the fitting module. This is what I've gone through, and I think I need to do this. And then I come back to you and I say, yes, you're totally on track. This is what I see. And maybe you missed this, or any sort of advice like that. Or if you're just not sure where to start, then I'm also there to help you. And that's the other really great thing about this community, is that since everyone's going through the process, and they have in the past, you can also see many other fitting videos from other students who have gone through the process. And this is what a lot of people say is their absolute favorite thing about the entire community, is because you learn not only from your own fitting through the fitting videos that I make for you, but you also learn through other people's fittings as well, which I think is really powerful. And I've had so many students that have come back and said, you know, I just saw this exact same fitting issue on another garment that I had, and I saw this other student's fitting video and I knew how to fix it. So that's the power of that community. It's not only that you're engaging with each other and learning from each other, but you're also helping that process by learning even more than if you were to do it on your own completely. All right. So let's see here, other questions that we have. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. Okay. So another question is, how long does the course take? So the course runs 6 weeks, and each module releases weekly. There are a couple weeks that you get 2 modules released within 1 week. And generally between the last week, most people need a little bit more time because they might need to go through another fitting round. I don't guarantee that you're going to get a perfect fit on the first try. And actually, in my opinion, it's better not to get a perfect fit on the first try, because you're going through that fitting process and you're learning through that process. So oftentimes it will take longer than the 6 weeks, but the actual the actual course is 6 weeks. All right. And let's see here. I would say that there are, the question is, how many people need to make another fitting sample? So with this question, a lot of people need to make additional fitting samples. And during that process is where the true magic happens, in my opinion, that you're really learning a lot about fitting. And that's really going to help you in the long run. There is, I would say, about 5% of people who don't need to make any fitting adjustments on their moulages. But it is really great practice when you do have fitting adjustments to make. It will only strengthen you in your entire journey. So, okay. Another question that several people ask is, does this course include sleeves? So I am a firm believer that we need to get the bodice completely correct, especially that armhole area, before we start adding a sleeve in there. And since the course is already pretty extensive as far as the measuring, pattern drafting, and fitting goes, we have a lot to cover during this course. So I don't include sleeves in this course. I do plan to do it again. I do plan to make this course in the future with sleeves as an additional course. And as soon as that's ready, I'll let you know. But I don't want you to stop with just your moulage and sloper. I want you to keep going. And many students have drafted their own sleeves very successfully, as well as taking commercial patterns and adapting them to their sloper. So that's another option as well, that you can either take an existing pattern or you could draft one based on books or online information. There is so much information out there online about drafting sleeves, and a lot of students have successfully done it. So I want you to keep going in your journey. Don't wait for me. It will be coming soon, but that armhole is really key to get that to fit well before you add that sleeve. All right. Okay, so the next question we have here is, How do I reference my sloper with commercial sewing patterns? So this is a really great question because every pattern is so different, and the amount of ease that you add to the patterns or that commercial patterns might have might be very different to your preferences. So it is a little tricky to compare your sloper to commercial patterns. There have been several students who have done it. I don't specifically teach how to do this in the course, but I know that a lot of students have compared their sloper to commercial or indie patterns. And alternatively, many students have taken the commercial or indie patterns as inspiration, and they've mimicked those design lines onto their sloper. So they've basically taken those commercial indie patterns, kind of measured a few parts, and then made the design lines on their sloper, closed any darts up, and that sort of thing. Okay. So, some of the things that you can make with your sloper. What are some of the things that you can make with your sloper? They are blouses and dresses. Once you add more ease, you can add ease for blazers, jackets, and coats, and you can also use it for skirts as well. So I wanted to share with you a student moulage here. And her sloper as well. And you can see that she's added ease to it to create a basic dress. Now, when we're making our moulage, we actually close the darts to create princess seams. So this is starting with pattern manipulation, and I teach you how to do this in the course to make the moulage. You're making a princess seamed garment, which is your moulage, and you can actually use that same concept for creating a dress or style patterns later on. And that's what this student did. She did a lovely job on it. Okay, so another question is, do I need a dress form to do this course? You don't need to have a dress form, and it is an option in the bonus that I've created a specific bonus where I teach you how to create a customized dress form. And that dress form is completely from scratch, but you also have another bonus. If you already have an adjustable dress form, then you can use that adjustable dress form that you have and pad it up by adding your moulage on top of it and then putting padding underneath it. So I'll share with you a couple photos right now of that so that you can see those bonuses are here and here. So the image on the left side there with my arm around her, that's my dress form where I've taken an existing dress form and I've added my moulage on top. I padded it up. Now, the difficult part with this process is that sometimes we have to add a lot of padding in certain areas. So things like shoulder pads will be very helpful. Anything that you can use underneath to pad it up to kind of thicken it up and make it more dense is very helpful. That first dress form that I did with padding it up, I ended up having to add an entire inch to my torso length up here. And that's kind of the downside about using a dress form, even if it's an adjustable dress form, without padding it up and putting your moulage on top. If you're not doing that, that's kind of the issue of just using an existing dress form. Now, the actual course requires no dress form because you're taking all of your body measurements from your own body, and you're only going off of that to create your moulage, and then you're adding ease to create your sloper. Now, the other image that you see there is a customized dress form, and that's here. That's my girl right here. I don't think you can see her on Instagram, but this is my customized dress form that I did with the moulage, and the entire bonus is really complete and documented for not only making the additional pattern pieces needed, but also doing the sewing and filling it and everything. So that's in the bonus. All right. Okay. All right. Oh, somebody asked, if you're making the course again with sleeves included, how will that play out for the rest of us who will have already done the course, as in buying it today without sleeves? So the sleeve course that I do in the future will be a separate course, because often with sleeves, it generally is for blouses or blazers, jackets, and coats, and we need to add different amounts of ease sometimes for those things, and that is an entire course in itself. So this course about the moulage and the sloper will always be a sleeveless moulage and sloper. For me, it's critical to get that armhole perfect before you move on to adding a sleeve. Okay, great question. All right, so and another question here. I'm losing weight and exercising, so my size and shape are changing. So I will need to understand how to redo my moulage. And after the moulage, will I be able to make a pattern? So yes, that's really important that we are able to make adjustments to our moulage and sloper as our bodies change with time. And that's actually one of the other bonuses that I include, which is a self-fitting bonus. And in that bonus, I go through the steps of when I lost weight. I had my tonsils removed and I wasn't eating much. So I lost about a dress and a half size, 1.5 dress sizes of weight. And so I had to actually size down, and I documented that full step-by-step process in that bonus video. So generally what we do for this is we're adding additional seam allowances on the sides of our garments, and we generally have a fair amount of seam allowance worked into the fronts and the back as well. So we are utilizing that seam allowance when we need to make the garment bigger, and if we need to make it smaller, we can usually adjust it on the side seams mostly. Now, if you need to adjust it more than 2 dress sizes up or 2 dress sizes down, then sometimes it can be more beneficial to remeasure and go through the process again. So generally up 2 sizes, down 2 sizes, we can make really good adjustments. I've seen up to even 3 sizes very successfully with that process as well. It just depends on where you're gaining and losing the weight too. So doing that process, it's very common, and with time, all of us change. So yes, really great question there. Okay, so another question a lot of people ask is, can I do this process with menswear? So maybe they might want to do it for a husband or a son, or you might be a man yourself and want to do it for yourself. Yes, you can do this process for menswear. However, there is a change in the formulas, and when you go through the body measurements and you enter your measurements into the calculator, then I have to look at those measurements and give you some adjustments because you don't have as many darts. So it's a very common process to do, and it just takes another check on my part to make sure it's correct before you proceed with the drafting. And there have been several successful students who have done that. As well, if you've had a mastectomy, either single or both sides, then this process also works for you as well. I recommend that you send me an email as soon as you've gone through that measuring and through the calculator, and then I'll look through those measurements to make sure we're good before you start drafting. All right. Okay, another question here is, what sort of fabric do I need for the moulage and the sloper? So for my moulage and sloper, I used a more stiff fabric, which I generally prefer. It's around 200 grams or so per square meter, and it's on the website in case you need to know the exact weight in ounces. But as well, it's on the student list. So you're going to see the tools and supplies list for the items that you need. And I recommend getting a plain weave fabric, which is basically like a standard basket weave. That's a plain weave where the yarns are going in and out in a standard fashion. I don't recommend getting a twill because a twill actually skips some of those yarns to create the lines. So a twill has lines going through it. You can visibly see those lines. Those different jumps in the yarns can actually create a difference in fitting. So we want to use a plain weave muslin material, or in the UK and I think Australia they call it a calico. In the US, we don't call it a calico, we call it a muslin. And it's a very plain fabric, and you've seen probably the photos of me wearing my moulage. That's what a muslin fabric is. And I recommend using starch with it if you can't find a fabric that's has enough structure to it. The starch really helps allow the fabric to really hang and cover the body properly. So if you use a really thin fabric, every single little dimple will show, and we want to really be able to see the actual form of the body, and that fabric really helps with that. So even if you can't find a fabric with lots of structure, just buying a can of spray starch can really help a lot. Also with that, which is really important, is don't wash and dry your fabric. So for muslin fabric or calico, don't wash and dry. I know it's against everything you've been taught as a sewist, but don't wash and dry it, because that can actually change the way those yarns shrink, and we don't want to do that. But we do iron it, and we can use steam in the ironing process as well, to make sure that it's shrunk up enough before we start cutting. All right. So another question is, do I need the fitting book for this? So no, you don't need to have the fitting book. The entire fitting module is given in a guide format with step-by-step procedures for the most common fitting issues. And you'll follow that entire module and go through the assessment of your fitting on your own. And then you'll also be taking photos during that assessment so that you can properly see what the drag lines are, or wrinkles or anything like that. And then once you assess it, you're going to come back to me. If you want help, then I'm going to jump in and say, yes, you're totally on track, or these are the things I could also see improving, in case you missed something. So the fitting part is my favorite part. I love it. And I know it's a part of frustration for so many people. I want you to think of fitting also in terms of a challenge, and that sometimes when we're frustrated, it means that we're also growing. And even though it can take several times, several fitting corrections to get it perfect, and we're having to do a lot sometimes to those garments, the amount that you learn in that process is so big. And I see students from never drafting a single pattern, never ever making any pattern corrections, to getting their moulage and their sloper fitting perfectly and really, really well. And every single person is at a different level too with what their perfect is. So we also have to consider everyone's at a different level in their sewing journey, in their pattern making journey, and the fitting process, while it can be frustrating or a challenge, that is actually a true sign of growth, that you persevere and you go through it again and you get it to where you want it to be. And that perseverance, it takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of grit, but I know you have it in you. It's something that you really want, and I'm here to support you in that. Okay. All right, I'm just going to scroll through here and see. I think we're pretty on track here. Let me reread that. Do I have to rebuy upgrades to the course in the future? So this is something that I am constantly doing, is making small upgrades or updates to the courses that I provide, and I do not require anyone to make an upgrade purchase or anything like that. So the course materials themselves stay as they are generally, but there are slight updates, or if I notice somebody's really struggling on a certain part and it's happening multiple times, I might go back in and make some adjustments to that, but I don't require any upgrade payments. I really, really want you to be successful in your journey, and part of that is giving you any upgrades that might help you. So anytime I can help, I really do try to help. That's really why I created the course to begin with. And I remember when I struggled so much making patterns, and the learning curve for me took years, decades, really it did. And to be able to make that process go quicker for someone else, I feel like that's my calling here and why I'm meant to be here. So to help you with your journey, that's what this course is all about. And actually the last course I ran when we were doing the introductions at the beginning of the course, one of the women there said she had made a moulage with another method, not the method I teach, but a different method, and she went through 13 fitting rounds. I mean, this is just ridiculous. 13 rounds. I had never heard of that many rounds before. And so she ended up going through the entire process, and she made 2 rounds with this method. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen with everyone. Everyone has a different circumstance, different level of understanding. But the more methods you try, the better you're going to get. And honestly, that those 13 that she made with another method, it probably helped her when she finally got to a method that was an easier starting point for her. So just thinking of all of those different methods that you've tried in the past as those steps in your journey that you're going higher and higher, you're learning more, and every step that we can add to it is more growth. And at some point you're going to look back and you're going to just see the progression that you've made, and it's going to probably blow your mind at some point. And I love that there are so many people joining the course. It's so motivating to see so many new students joining. And I would absolutely love to see you there if you have not joined yet. We have so much fun with this process, and it really is a wonderful learning experience. So I don't see any other questions. Let me see. I think I see one. Yeah. All right. Just checking. Make sure we covered them all. We did. Are there any other questions here? Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, I really want to thank you for your time. Showing up is such a big part of learning, and there is so much to show up for these days, and I'm glad that you chose this to be one of them. And I really hope to see you in the online course. In case I didn't answer all of your questions, please feel free to reply back to any of my emails to ask any further questions, or you can also message me on social media or comment on this feed, and I'm sure that I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right, thanks so much for showing up. Take care, everyone.